Perspective.
Let's fucking talk about it. Welcome back to the BBR podcast, Bitch Be Real.
We talk about our real personal experiences with self-improvement and character development.
We're saying fuck unrealistic standards pressured by social and cultural norms.
If you're tired of the bullshit too, let's get into it. Google says that it's a particular attitude toward or way of regarding something, a point of view.
Just basically the way you look at something. Because everybody's got different perspectives. My perspective of this camera right now is your different perspective of a camera.
Even just physically.
Yeah.
But like deeper than that perspective, like the way
Mental.
the way that you observe things.
Mm-hmm. The way that you be looking at shit.
Right. Physically and
emotionally, probably.
I'm so emotionally invested in that camera.
And I don't know anything about it, so I really don't give a shit about the camera. And the camera does something for me, but if you lost the camera, you'd be like, fuck, I lost the camera. My life is over. I feel like the best way to start this perspective episode is a little story time. Yeah. Just a quick little recap of a little girls trip we tried to take.
The crazy adventure. You said it was going to be Jumanji, and bitch, it was Jumanji.
Yeah, I manifested something with that for sure. Because I was like, bitch, we're going Jumanji. And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And I was like, we're going on an adventure. We don't know what we're doing. We have no plans. We're going somewhere we've never been, that we very, very lightly Googled. Mm-hmm. We're going Jumanji. And so basically, we were headed down to Jekyll Island, which one of the bartenders at my job, he was like, yeah, it has really good sunsets or like sunrises. Like, it's really pretty for that. And that's all we needed to hear. Mm-hmm. So we hop in your car. And
my car, by the way, hasn't had an oil change in like... It's needed an oil change for like 4 months, has given me problems in the past with like starting and like the battery, just going to shit. And, it's been like that for a couple of the past trips, and it's just like, fuck it. Like, we don't really, and like the plan was just to like we had no, usually when we plan trips, we kind of like, we have a place to stay. We kind of know what we're going to do like every day. We kind of like plan out each day and like when we're going to get there and when we get back. And this time we were just like, you know what, like impromptu. Like we're literally not planning a fucking single thing. We're just going to get in the car
and go
and drive. And that's literally what we did.
So the trip's going pretty good, We're like an hour from Jekyll Island, 30 minutes outside of Savannah, Georgia, and we're just driving. And, like, I'll tell my perspective.
Okay.
And you can tell yours. I'm driving. I'm looking at my phone. I'm, like, probably texting somebody, and we're on the phone with one of my good friends, Braden. I said your name. He said he wanted to be mentioned. So I was on the phone with Braden, good friend for quite a while, and... we're driving. I'm, like, looking down, halfway talking to him, just, like, not looking at the road whatsoever. Why are you trying to cop a feel of my fucking chin right now? Like, not looking at the road whatsoever. And you're like, oh, shit. And then it's like, bam. And I'm like, hello. And so I look up, and all I see is a tan object in front of our windshield and then going over our car. And you're like, bitch, what the fuck? Bitch, what the fuck? That was a chair. And I'm like, what do you mean that was a chair?
And you're like, do you want to, like, and I was like, yep.
Yeah. So you describe your perspective of, the beginning of the end, basically.
So my perspective is, like, I'm paying attention to the road. So I see it from a distance, but it's coming so fast that I, like, don't really have a time to react.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, fuck it, we're hitting it. Like, I guess I'm just going to hit it.
Yeah.
Not knowing what it was until after I hit it. And we got too fucking close where I was like, oh my God, and I see it. And I know exactly what it is. It's an Adirondack chair, fully wooden, probably $600 piece of, like, furniture that's just chilling in the middle of the left lane, like, horizontal facing me. Literally no way to avoid it. And I just, like, I still have visions of it, like, smacking the front of my car, like, coming so close and, like, just head on fucking, like, I didn't even see, you saw where it went after we hit it. I wasn't even paying attention to that anymore. I'm, like, already went into, like, fight or flight. Like, what the fuck did we do here? So we pull over on the side of the road, and, like, this is like a 3-lane, 4-lane highway.
Yeah.
And there's, like, tractor trailers zooming by at
1 a.m.
Oh, also, we hit the chair at 73 miles an hour. So, not slow. It's dark, so it's like you said, it's 1 a.m. So we're like, can't see anything. We don't even know what we're looking for. We're two girls, like, don't know what the fuck we're looking for. we look and my headlight is like fucked up. Like I can't tell if it's working or not at this point, but the whole driver's side front of my car is just absolutely fucked up.
Yeah, and when you go to open the door, it's like,
Yeah, it's the door's like jammed a little bit. And so I'm like, I don't know, bitch, like, what do I do? What do I do? Like, bitch, what do I do? And so we pull into a gas station, a Love's. Thank God there was like a good fucking truck stop gas station at midnight. Like, so then I call my mom. She's heated, clearly, because I literally woke her up out of sleep or like just about to fall asleep. And she's like not angry with me that it happened because like what am I gonna do now, but she's angry in the fact that it's 1 a.m. and she's helpless. Like she's hours from me, you know, if not an entire day trip from me. So she's like, what the like what do you want me to tell you?
Yeah.
And so then
Both of y'all are a little, you know.
yeah, we're pretty much yelling at each other back and forth, and she's like she keeps I keep looking over at her like I don't even know what she wants me to say, and you're like and I'm like, that's like literally, me and my mom are both so grateful at that point that Brooke was like the only voice of reason in that moment, because my mom was like hotel, and she instantly looked up a hotel and she was like, there's a 4-star like 2 miles away.
Yeah.
Like,
and I give a little ring to the hotel and I'm like, so what y'all doing if I pull up in 5 minutes? Like, can I have a room in 5 minutes? And like this just animatronic ass lady's like, of course. Let me give them a ring. Okay, can I please have your card number? And so you're just kind of sitting there, and I'm like, you know, I'm getting the hotel room, and I'm like, look, like, we get out, we inspect the car. I'm like, nothing's leaking. Mm-hmm. You can drive it. Like, your, you know, little temperature gauge, like, to see if your car's overheating, it's good. Like, every necessity you need, like, all the liquid is in the car, and we have one working headlight. So... We're good.
We're good for now.
We're good for now. We'll figure it out. Like, we'll just go to the hotel. And so we go to the hotel, and that's when we realize, like, do we need to call the police? Like, there's a chair, maybe still intact in the middle of the road. And, like, do we need to file a police report? And my mom's an insurance agent. Should I plug my mom? My mom's an insurance agent at Rec Insurance, REC Insurance. Support a small business. Anyways, so I call her, and... she doesn't answer, but I'm like, you know, I don't, like, want to spam her and freak her out because, like, there's nothing she can do either. And, like, we're safe in a hotel, so, like, I'll just talk to her in the morning. But I'm like, you know, file a police report just in case you need it. Like, you rather have it than not have it. And so the cops come, fine as hell.
So, oh, my God, so fine.
So fine. So fine. And just cool as shit. Like, I'm like, okay, let's just put up the vape, just, you know, whatever. And I, like, look at him walking in, and he's like, shh. And I'm like, okay, no, we're set. We're good. Like, it's a younger guy. He's got tattoos.
He was wearing glasses. Oh, my God.
Yeah. And he comes in, and he's like, so you hit a chair? And
yeah, he's got his hands in his vest all, like, all comfy and, like, ego. And he's like, you hit a chair?
You hit a chair? And we're like, we did. And he's like, is this y'all's white car up front? And I'm like, no, is that car fucked up? He was like, no, I was just wondering. I'm like, oh, you're going to know. And so we turn the corner to where he sees the chair, and he's like, oh, damn.
He's like, oh, you hit a chair?
You hit a chair. Like, I don't know if he thought it was, like, one of those metal folding chairs, and it was just like, you know, we got a little ding. No, sir.
No,
We
sir.
did not have a little ding. We had a little hole in the car. And so we filed a police report, you know, real cool. And then we're like, fuck it. Might as well just go back up to the hotel room. Have a little.
Well, we were making jokes with the cops too. Like he was like, I see the Trulies in your back seat. You're gonna need those. And we were like, yeah, we already snuck some into the hotel.
Yeah.
Like, we're good. And he was like, if I didn't have to work for the next 5 hours, I would come join you. And I was like, you are so welcome to do that.
I'm literally so welcome. You don't even understand how welcome. We got a king suite. We even got a little sofa bed.
Pull out couch, yeah.
You know, I'll sleep on you. That's not what I meant. I meant like I'll sleep with you in it, but I'll sleep on you, whatever you want to take that as. I'm sure I would do it. We haven't really eaten, and so we're like, okay, well, what do we eat? So we go down and we buy like 2 bags of popcorn and a little beef jerky thing for you, and then we just sit and watch Friends, and we're like, you know what, this is pretty nice.
Pretty good. Yeah, I remember walking into this whole story is on our Instagram too, in the moment. If you want to see like the panic in my eyes in the moment, you can see that on our Instagram, on our BBR pod Instagram. But I remember like walking, I don't know if we were walking out or walking in from talking to the officers, but I was like, okay, positive. like, we have now a shower and a bathroom, which both of those things we wouldn't have tonight if we didn't hit the chair.
Yeah.
So I was like, cool, you know, change of perspective.
Yeah, and the elevator smelled like absolute dog shit.
Oh my God, it was terrible.
The whole thing smelled like a retirement home, but it was like, okay, the shower has a few hairs in it, but it's pretty clean besides that. And, like, you know, we have a nice king bed, you know, like, we're good. We're having a good time. We can make this a little fun, you know? And so then I call my mom in the morning, and my mom is like, because I'm like, why don't we just go to a mechanic? Like, the first thing that comes to my mind is, like, before we do anything, let's just go to a mechanic and see, like, what's going on. Because it was like, we could be stranded down here. Like, if this car is really fucked up, like, we're 4 hours from home. Like, and my mom would, of course, come get us. Like, she would really pull through in that situation. But I was like, I really don't want her to have to do that.
Yeah.
And so my first thing is like, okay, let's go to a mechanic shop. But then after I think about it for a minute, I'm like, we could definitely get scammed. Because we're like not even from around here. And we're going to tell them what happened. And they're going to be like, 2 women we can take advantage of. And so,
Of course.
So my mom, I called her, and then she called a mechanic that's a really good friend of hers that she's been going to for years, and he's like, go to an AutoZone because you can get like a free diagnostic thing ran on it with the computer, and like they can take a look for you, and like they're not going to try to scam you because they can't really fix it. And so we go to the AutoZone, dude's really chill, and he's like, this is definitely drivable. He fixes our hood, and we're like, okay, cool. We can make it home. Like, we're good. And since we were already down past Savannah, only like 30 minutes, instead of going to where we were supposed to go, because the one headlight wasn't working, so we were like, why don't we just drive back through Savannah, stop for a little bit, like enjoy at least something from this trip, and then go home before it gets like really too dark. Like, we'll drive for like an hour in the dark, but not like the entire time.
Yeah.
And so we do that. We go to Savannah, and it's a good time.
Yeah. The intention was to only go to like a coffee shop and just like enjoy that little moment of peace before taking the 4-hour drive back. But we ended up like just, we literally said, let's make it like 15 minutes walk. And we ended up making it like an hour and a half walk. And we, like, I don't know what it was, but I think I was subconsciously determined to like see the water.
Yeah.
And so I just like, we just like gravitated naturally toward the water. And I was like, actually, bitch, like if we walk like 20 blocks, the water's like there. So we may as well just do that. And we did. Went into a couple of shops, got some cookies.
Found a cool little mirror.
Oh, yeah.
Little situation. I don't think we took a picture of the whole thing, but it was like those clown mirror.
Yeah, it was like on the side of a Starbucks where like one of those like funny house mirror things that are in like state fairs and stuff.
Yeah.
Super cute. Like we literally laughed for like 10 minutes over there, like dying laughing. Like damn near on the ground rolling, laughing.
It was just so silly and goofy. Like, there's just no other way to put it. If you want to see a few of the pictures from the trip and, like, mostly what we did in Savannah, my Instagram is @swagpackin', 2 N's. If you want to go look at that, because it's just, like, it was just funny. And then the first song, like, you were like, okay, I was on aux. And so we get in the car, and it's, like, the first time we're really driving off. And so I just search on Apple Music car crash and play the first song. And it's like, have you ever had car sex? Girl, you're going to make this car crash.
It was, like, the first line in it, and she put it as the music for the post. It's such a fun, like, we literally died laughing the entire time just because, like, this song is the dedicated song for any time we go on a road trip now.
Yeah.
Like, just so funny. It's like, baby girl, you better stop that. You about to make this car crash.
Ooh, and it was like going 45 into 65. Basically being like, I'm getting head or la puss right now, and I'm going to crash the car, girl, if you don't stop. But it's Car Crash by Fully. But it was just such a funny song. And then we were just singing it the entire time. And, like, there were just so many good parts of the trip. Like, before we even made it down there, like, midnight, 11:30, we stopped at this, like, visitor center and went to pee. And, like, we're peeing and we're all alone.
Wait, when we first walk into the wrong side of the building, there's a mannequin sitting on a bench, and it's, like, one of those, like, wax figures. Terrifying.
Yeah, and we're like, is that a man? Because we thought it was a real dude. And I was like, if that's a real dude, we're going to go in this door and turn our ass around. Because, like, we're alone at midnight. Like, it's a little sketch. But you know those visitor centers have giant bathrooms, like 20 stalls. And so, like, we walk in, and I'm like, girl, I'm going to piss beside you for safety reasons. And afterwards, we discussed how we were both sitting there pissing, being like, if we see a man's feet in front of us, like, what are we doing? But so I think we were both already, like, on edge, just, like, synced up, and, like, I don't really fuck with this. So we walk out of the stall, and we look, this sounds like kind of nasty, but we look at the sinks, and we're like, let's just dip.
Yeah.
You know, like.
Well, when we were both like finished, we were about to walk out. I was like grabbing my keys off the door, and we heard like, I thought it was knocking, but you thought it was like footsteps, like really faint, like quick footsteps, like somebody was like running or something. And we both walk out of the stalls at the same time, look at each other in the mirror, and I'm like, and we just fucking ran out, like
horror movie type, genuine scare. Like, something about it just gave me the worst gut feeling, because it's like you're pissing alone in this sketchy ass bathroom, and you just hear,
no, literally,
like, I can't do it. You do it, because I got nails.
Like super faint and like haunting.
I feel like it was
almost.
getting louder. It was like.
It was literally like so haunting. Whether it was knocking or footsteps, either way, it was just so.
Just like we were really the only one in the parking lot too.
Yeah.
And so we turn the corner, and we're like walking really fast. So we turn the corner and open the door, and without saying anything to each other, we both just sprint to the car. And I'm in slippers, so I'm like fucking ripping my toes into them, like sprinting, and we're like, bitch, what the fuck? Like, if anyone would have saw this, they would have thought like a murderer was literally coming after us in that building.
That's the trip, and that was honestly probably one of the most memorable trips we've ever taken, even though it was not nearly what we intended it to be, which is just goes to show like the change in perspective can literally change everything.
Yeah. And it was definitely the inspiration for this episode, because we were kind of like sitting there, and I was just typing out a bunch of podcast episode ideas, and I was like, what feels relevant like right now for us? And it was like I said perspective, and you were like, yeah. And I was like, yeah. Because a negative perspective could, if we both had one, it could have ruined the entire trip. It's like the easiest way to go. Like, when there's so many negative things happening around you, or just so blatantly obvious, it's hard to look for the good in that. And so you can get so caught up in all the negatives. Like, when we hit that chair, we could have easily been like, fuck it, the trip's over. Like, let's just turn around now and just say fuck it. And we could have been like super bummed out and been like, we wasted the gas to go down here, and we wasted our time, and we wasted this. And now your car's fucked up. Now you have to pay a bunch of money. Now your insurance is fucked. Like, we could have easily just spiraled.
Outside of the trip specifically, in general, I feel like being able to find the positive is the harder way to do it. But once you start doing that, everything, like, kind of just like, it's like a domino effect. Like, everything else in your life, just, you start remembering only the positive things. And like, I think there's an interesting thing about like memory in that too. I haven't done a ton of research on the brain, but my boss, Joe, actually said something really interesting a couple weeks ago, where like, if you remember something, like, your memory of something is different from everybody else's memory of something, obviously. Like, you remember certain parts of it so that you can remember the whole thing. Your brain never remembers every single detail. It just remembers, like, the key points. And so every time, like, if you tell a story, like, if I told this story to somebody else, the trip story to somebody else, I would only remember other parts of it, and then it replaces the memories that you already had with the memory that you just said. And every time you do that after that, it changes your memory. So you can almost like rewrite history in your own brain by like leaving out certain details and slightly changing certain details. And so I feel like if you just think about that in a way where like you make it a point to only remember the positive things about something, you'll literally make the entire memory of that situation positive. Because you'll only remember the positive things. And I genuinely think, like, obviously it's very obvious to see the negative things that happen, but my memory of it is such a good trip now because there were so many positive things that came out of it that I don't deem it a negative thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that a good way to not let yourself spiral in those negative things, don't determine something is like horrifically bad until you know it is.
Right.
Like, don't be like, oh, you know, blah, 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 blah. Like, I got called off of work today, and or like my boss didn't schedule me as many days as he usually does, I'm about to get fired. Or I'm about to get fired. I have to start looking for a new job. I'm not going to have enough money. Like, he's probably going to schedule me this amount next week, and now I'm not going to make rent. Instead of just being like, hey, why didn't you schedule me? Like, is there something going on? And he's like, oh, we just needed to give an extra day to this person, but next week I'm going to actually schedule you an extra day. Like, don't spiral and let yourself think, because that's really surface level, but don't spiral and let yourself think that everything is going wrong and everything will be wrong here on out because of one little thing.
And based on so many assumptions.
Yeah.
Like, you're living so far in the future that your brain has no choice but to assume, like, almost assume the worst.
Yeah.
Like, you're basing reality on assumptions, and that's just not what it is.
Yeah. You can't assume, like, just because something negative happened right now, that everything else is going to be negative that has to do with what's happening.
Right.
Like, you'll always find positives and negatives in things, but if you focus on the positive, like, you can't fix a lot of things in the moment. Like, you can't fix everything right then and there, so stop assuming how everything else is going to go. Just see how it goes.
Right.
Go from there.
That's all. You can only control what you're given, too, and I think that's a big thing is, like, I couldn't control the fact that, like, after I hit the chair, I couldn't control the fact that my car was fucked up in the moment. I didn't really have a choice but to, we didn't really have a choice but to make the best of the situation.
Yeah, like, the chair's already hit. We can't go back in time.
Right.
Like, what's done is done. So just, like, keep it pushing. Like, keep your mind, like, be present by keeping your mind in the day you're living. Like, because you have no idea what will happen tomorrow. Positive or negative, you can't control what happens tomorrow. You don't know what happens tomorrow. So the only thing you can control and the only thing you know is what you've already lived. Like, second by second, minute by minute, day by day. Like, that's how you have to go about it, or you're gonna like freak yourself out and exhaust yourself mentally for literally nothing.
And another way to look at that too is, like, follow this guy on Instagram because his videos are super creative, but he's also a runner in college. He has this, like, thing that he's started saying, and it's run the mile you're in. And I feel like that's obviously, like, a running term. Like, you don't want to think too far ahead into your race or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's also a good analogy for life. Like, just stay exactly where you are. And what you can control is, like, the footstep you're taking in that second.
Yeah.
Like, you can only literally control the stride that you're currently in. You can't control whether you trip over a fucking branch or you win the race.
Yeah.
Genuinely. Like,
you may be good in your next 3 footsteps, but that fourth one, you're going to roll an ankle.
Right.
And
if that's what you're thinking about, it's going to happen.
Yeah. Like, if you're like, oh, fuck, I'm going to roll my ankle, you probably are going to roll your ankle.
Right.
Like, and then you're going to be like, oh, damn, my ankle. And what did you accomplish?
Right.
Nothing.
Nothing. Now you're hurt. So
Now you're hurt. Now your ankle's fucked up. So
we just talked a lot about, like, living in the future, but you can also live in the past too. You said there's nothing we can do to change it now. And it also could have been so much worse than it was.
Yeah.
Like, realistically, the possibilities of the chair coming through the windshield and hitting us, or me swerving to miss the chair and hitting another car, were very high in that moment. But, like, being grateful for the fact that it didn't happen, and, like, what happened, saved our lives, basically. Like, wrecking my car to the point of, like, having the check engine light come on is so much better than both of us losing our lives, or one of us losing our lives over a fucking chair, you know?
Yeah, because it really hit your side, and I remember, like, thinking right after, because, like, it came up over the windshield. Like, I remember it being right in front of you. I probably would have been good, but, like, if it would have come through and I would have been like, oh my God, my best friend is dead, and I'm in the middle of, like, that would have actually been horrible.
Yeah.
There would have really absolutely not been very many positives to look at there.
Yeah.
Like, just being grateful that neither of us died. We could get back home. Your car is fucked up for sure, but it's not totaled.
Yeah.
It's drivable until you get it to a repair shop, and, like...
Yeah. And there's options, too. Like, today we decided to take the light rail, which is just, like, a public transportation train in Charlotte, instead of driving. Not that I couldn't drive, because I drove yesterday. Like, my car is capable of driving, but just, like, why not? Like, why not take the light rail instead of taking the car that could potentially get more fucked up by driving it?
Yeah.
You know? So there's other options.
There are some things that, like, when you look at it objectively, like, if, like I said, like, if you would have fucking died, and then I was in the middle of Georgia and you were dead, I don't know if I could have found a positive in that, because it's like, what?
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're in, like, that point in life where you're like, there's really nothing to be grateful for, just try to look outside in, like, of that scenario, Because when you're going through really rough shit, you just got to kind of look outside of it and be like, in a year, in a few months, there will be something to be grateful for. Even if you're like, there's absolutely nothing right now, like the fact you're breathing, something to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And even when that doesn't feel like enough to be grateful for, in 6 months, you'll find something. In 3 months, you'll find something. Like, and just knowing like, okay, I'm alive, so I'm good.
alive and I'm able to feel sadness.
Yeah.
Like, that's a crazy thing, too. I don't remember who talked about it, but it was a star of a movie or something talked about this, and they were like, you have the ability to feel sad. Like, you as a human were put on the earth and given the ability to conceptualize what sadness is, what happiness is. Going through something so crazy and so painful is very easy to look at in a negative light, but at the same time, it's like, if you can feel that deeply in sadness, you can also feel that deeply in happiness.
Yeah.
And it's just, not that that's what somebody wants to necessarily hear in that moment.
Yeah.
But it's like, you have the ability, you were given the capability of feeling that emotion so deeply, and that in and of itself is something to be grateful for, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's rough because we've both been in points where it's like, damn, like, there is nothing to be grateful for right now. And I think it takes a very high level of, like, acceptance that, like, yeah, your life might be absolute utter shit right now, but, like, you're living life and it will change. Like, being able to be like, you know what, like, my life is complete shit right now. I have a life, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just nothingness.
Yeah.
So, like, that's something to be grateful for. Because some people, like, don't even want to think about that, like, when they're going through hard times. But sometimes, like, when that's the only thing you can cling on to, you got to cling on to it and be like, okay, like, one day at a time, I'm alive. That's cool. At least I'm alive.
I got it. And it takes a lot of mental strength to be able to do that, too.
Yeah.
Like, no denying. It's definitely not easy to do.
No.
By any means. And I'm definitely not an expert. Like, neither of us are experts, but it's like, we're working on it. That's that's what we're doing. That's what this podcast is. It's like, we're never going to say that we're an expert at anything or that we're perfect in doing anything that we do. But it's like, just, this is our experience. This is what we've learned. And it gets easier once you get used to being able to, like, look at the positives.
Yeah. And it becomes like a habit. Like, it becomes a habit to say, like, because you can acknowledge the bad for sure, but that doesn't mean it has to be your focus. You can acknowledge it and be like, this sucks, but let me focus on this at least for right now until I have to go back to dealing with this.
Yeah.
Like, just to give my mind a mental break and still be positive about the situation.
Yeah.
Looking at your life overall that you don't have a positive perspective, that's when you need to take what I would call, like, more actionable steps, because day to day you don't really usually get into a ton of negative situations. Like, yeah, there's something negative about every single day usually, but it's not like some big situation that, like, you're gonna have to deal with for a long time.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, damn. My dog ran through these bushes and she's already matted to hell, and she was literally coated in sticks and leaves that I had to then sit on the ground in the cold with my ass wet to pick out of her fur because she could not walk on them. That wasn't so great. But
This morning.
yeah, this morning, literally, are you really fucking with me right now, Coco? Like, what the fuck? Called my mom after and was like, Mom, look at this fucking video of Coco. And I just realized I was getting, like, really snappy with her. I was just in a really negative headspace. And literally what I told her is I was like, Mom, it's 8 a.m. I don't want to ruin your day by taking my frustration with what just happened out on you. So I was like, I want to take a step back. And, like, before I even started getting ready for this, I sat down and just ate my bowl of oatmeal and was like, let me just breathe. That was irritating, but, like, is it anything worth ruining my day over? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So let me just breathe. And I put on a podcast, which is what I do. Like, when I'm feeling in a really negative headspace, I have, like, 2 podcasts I go to. I have one, which is Anything Goes by Emma Chamberlain, because she gets into good topics, but she's not very self-helpy. You can pick up on good things to apply to your life, but it's not a self-help podcast by any means. She kind of just talks about general topics, and she has some deeper ones, but she has some too that are like my fashion in right now. And that's what I'll listen to when I just want something positive but not self-helpy to listen to. But when I'm like, I'm in a negative headspace, or I'm tripping about this dude, or I'm doing this, I listen to Date Yourself instead, which is more like a self-helpy podcast.
Personal growth situation.
Yeah, like personal growth. And she has ones about like, you know, coming into your energy. She's very into manifestation and, like, spiritual things. So that's what I listen to. I'm like, I need a little step up on like mental grounding and like resetting my mind and like thinking about something introspectively right now.
Yeah.
And I also read like quite a few personal growth motivational books. I read a lot of self-help and motivational books. So if I'm not feeling listening to somebody, but I want something that will reset my mind or give me a different perspective just to distract me, that's what I do.
Yeah. I don't really read or listen. Like, I don't have any specific podcasts that I listen to. Every once in a while when I'm looking for a specific thing, I'll listen to a podcast, but honestly, I do yoga or go to the gym. Like, fill my time with things that are more positive. Like, if I'm really feeling like, ugh, I just need to, like, get out of this stuffy office. Like, this video didn't go the way that I planned it, blah, blah, blah. Like, I just literally stand up and walk outside or, like, ride my longboard. Like, just listen to music while doing something else. Like, something mindless, but not, like, negative. You know, like doom scrolling on Instagram. Like, it's mindless, and it can help you, like, reset, like, your mood, but it's not necessarily positive. And I feel like
It's very neutral.
Yeah. And, like, recently I've just been like, okay, I'm either going to sit on my bed and rot for the rest of the day, or I can get up and go to the gym and have a better day. So that's what I've just been doing recently.
Yeah. I feel like just finding things that put you in a better headspace and being self-aware enough to say, like, I'm tripping about nothing right now. Basically, like, I'm getting in a really negative headspace and letting this affect possibly my entire day for what? And just being able to realize that, like, you are being negative, which is okay, but just saying, okay, well, that means I need to do something that's positive.
Yeah.
And
self-soothe almost. Like, learning how to self-soothe as people our age, I think, is so important too. Getting to know yourself. I say that in every fucking podcast, but, like, getting to know yourself enough to know that, like, when you're on the beginning stages of spiraling, or, like, you're starting to get into that negative headspace, just figuring out the things. Like, for me, sometimes if I just, like, am frustrated that I can't sleep, I literally just put on a comfy hoodie. Like, because I don't like to sleep with, like, heavy clothes on, but, like, there's something about the compression of a comfy hoodie that literally just, like, makes me feel so much better. So I just throw on a comfy hoodie, and, like, that's self-soothing enough for me. Like, it's little things like that. You know that you had a rough day at work, so on the way home, grab your favorite snack from the store or something. Easy shit like that.
Yeah.
Or calling your friend. Like, everybody says this, but, like, surrounding yourself with people that are better for your mental health. Like, when I'm really stressed out or, like, really upset or, like, feeling big emotions, I literally just call her and I'm like, bitch, tell me I'm doing something wrong, or tell me that it's okay, that, like, I just need someone to, like, almost validate the fact that I'm feeling these emotions. And I feel like being able to differentiate those people from the people that are going to encourage you to stay in that negative mindset, or, like, because I like the way that you do it, because you're not encouraging me to stay in the negative, but you're saying, like, it's okay that you're feeling those, like, you're supposed to feel that. If you weren't feeling that, I'd be concerned. What you did was the right choice. What you're going through is something that's normal, like, you're not alone, you know, and, like, I care about you.
Yeah.
That's literally all you need in that moment. And I feel like being able to pick out those people in your life that aren't going to make you feel more like shit, or not try to be overly motivational and be like, bitch, literally you're tripping, like, go to the fucking gym.
Yeah.
Like, do something, because this is not good, you know?
Anything. Yeah, because I even find myself, like, hitting you with a double whammy text sometimes. I, like, send something that's motivational, and then I'm like, but if you don't want to hear something motivational.
You just did this too.
I know, it's like, here's something motivational. If you don't want to hear that shit right now, here's something not motivational, and that's more like, bitch, you're good. I felt that shit too. Like, sleep on it. Like, you don't have to be like, you know, get up, fight, resist.
Go David Goggins on him.
I don't even know who the hell that is.
Who's gonna carry the boats? If you're sad, who's gonna carry the fucking boats?
Anyways, I don't know what boats has to do with this, but
the people who know will know.
I think that we're going to leave it on the boats. No, and that's probably the end of this podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Join me. Put your hands like this, bitch.
As always, you can find us on...
As always,
you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, at the BBR Pod. at the PPR Pod.
Comment and subscribe.
Thanks for watching. Love
We'll
ya.
see you later. Love ya. Bye.